A lot of history is people fighting over different names for the same things. Different names can sort of be translated. Angels, aliens, there's at least like 10. Wow, that was really weird. Sorry, something just fell off my shelf for no reason. There's different dimensions. So I think those kids are accessing other, like, higher dimension.
I grew up in church. I grew up as a pastor's kid, and I still believe in Christ. I also have noticed that there's something much deeper going on than what I ever learned about within a church. Aliens has kind of been the last thing that I've came to. So the more I dig into that, and even a lot of ufology and stuff lately, it seems to be that people are starting to think that it might not just be other animals from other planets, but more so something on another dimensional level, ultra-terrestrials. You know, what do you know about this topic, and like, how did you come to this journey to start delving into things?
Well, I grew up in Shasta County, California. Mount Shasta, some people consider it the most like paranormal place in at least the United States. A lot of UFO sightings have been claimed to have been had around there. You know, Bigfoot and the Bigfoot mythologies from the forest in that area. There's a whole like kind of religious group who believe that there are small kind of alien dwarf beings who live inside of Mount Shasta as like an alien base. They're called the I Am activity. They believe in these things called Lumerians. So I guess I grew up around a lot of, alien mythology. I guess I thought that the belief in aliens was like not compatible with faith I was raised in, and I took that faith really seriously as a kid, and I still think that faith's important. A lot of history is people fighting over like just different names for the same things. It seems that quantum physicists seem to be confident in that there's at least like 10. Wow, that was really weird. Sorry, something just fell off my shelf for no reason. It's been just sitting there for like months.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's funny. That thing came off the shelf before. This is Frank. He's my roommate and my best friend.
Is he a Labradoodle?
Along with yeah, he is. He's my roommate's dog, but we joke that he's our roommate because he's very human. I think he's panting because he was outside and it's quite hot. But to be clear, that thing fell off before he was in the room. And he doesn't normally come up here, but sometimes when he's spooked, he comes up here.
Yeah.
That was just weird because I was talking about, 10 dimensions existing. This thing inexplicably fell off. Like I haven't heard or felt anything. And then he normally only comes up here if there's like thunder, lightning, or whatever.
That's weird,
and
man.
Have you heard of the Telepathy Tapes?
I was
like
actually going to bring that up because that's one of the things that I have recently heard that really intrigued me.
A lot of it centers mostly, not completely, but mostly nonverbal autistic children seem to have, well, don't just seem, like they do have a telepathic bond with their parents, which is to say they're running tests over and over and over again,
there's proof.
But yeah, like a lot on video, and they're, they have different people conducting the tests. The kids are in different rooms. They're showing a number to the parents, and the kids are just instantly tapping the number over and over, doing it over and over again for hours, with like some like absurd success rate, like over 95% success rate. They're doing it over and over again, and it's just not the kind of thing that could be getting spoofed. I was privy to a conversation last week, and like some older folks who are very, I guess traditional Christian were talking about it, and they're like, yeah, God, and someone else who wasn't a Christian was like, yeah, frequencies, whatever. And it was just kind of dawning on me again. It was like, it felt like different names for the same things.
Doesn't it,
that people speak from their tradition, and that's great. I think we should speak from our traditions because it's what's true to you. But it occurs to me that like we are linked to each other on higher dimensions, you would imagine that their bond is stronger than any other two living beings because that being came from that person. So it makes sense that primarily they're finding the telepathy between these kids, because I think that humans are very adaptable.
Yeah.
And clearly these kids don't have what most people have, the ability to like learn language and speak language. So they're adapting and they're still communicating, because if there's one thing that I truly believe is like you can say that is true of all humans. Humans are meant for connection.
Yeah.
Like that's what everyone craves. True isolation is kind of the essence of hell. And so I think these kids are tapping into something that I think on average, I think that very few people do tap into, because we have language and language is easier to measure, whatever. But the kids who are, you know, some of the kids talk about it and they're like, oh, it's much more beautiful and fluid the way that they communicate when they communicate than language. Like to them, language would be primitive and would be kind of, you know, short-sighted. And it's I think that I think the means by which those kids are communicating points to what quantum physics already says to be, which is like there's different dimensions. So I think those kids are accessing other like higher dimensions that I think we're all capable of. The reason I bring up the telepathy tapes is it does make you question kind of the fundamental tenets of a purely materialist reality.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that the only things that are true are things that can be accessed with see, taste, touch, smell. Our brains are capable of receiving signals that can't exactly be measured.
And all of my research of everything lined it back up with the Bible. And like, I don't hang on to things that I can't find to be true within the Bible. But I have found that most of the things that other people call something else do line up with what the Bible already says, if you open your mind up and look at it from a perspective of why couldn't that be possible? And no, the Bible never did say that couldn't happen. So for somebody who might be listening to this that isn't from like, you know, this far along, I would just say, just listen and don't be scared to hear what you hear.
Yeah, I think so. The seemingly credible UFO footage that's been seen, some of which was, you know, released by the U.S. military during the pandemic.
Yeah.
You see like these things kind of doing things that we don't understand how that can happen within the laws of physics, like razor point turns, not slowing down.
Right.
And I think it's really honestly the footage of them like moving into the water plane but continuing its speed that made me realize that they're in a different dimension of reality. And you're just seeing like a shadow of the thing or like an energy signature. They're kind of primarily operating in a different space, maybe moving in and out of what we know and see. You talk about ghosts, you talk about the dead. You know, and again, I think that could be other dimensions, whether or not it is someone, you know, that we love who's passed on and is over on a different side, or if it's maybe something just taking the shape of someone. There are so many accounts and so many traditions that talk about it. I almost feel sometimes like it's like a Western chauvinism when people dismiss stuff. They're like, well, now we got technology, we have no need for the primitive superstition. Because like we're the same beings, and just because like we understand, you know, the atomic reality of our world, and we've been able to kind of create terms and understand systems, I think sometimes it can lead somebody to this false sense of confidence that we really know the world around us. Like a vast percentage of our universe is, you know, comprised of dark matter, and we don't know what dark matter is.
Right.
It's like a term that we're throwing at it, but we don't really know what this is. I don't doubt that in the same way that, you know, people might look at science 400, 500 years ago, I don't doubt that 100 years from now, people will look at us like, oh, they really thought they had a complete thing, but there will be things discovered that will blow the lid off of our concept of a purely materialist reality. We will be looked back at as kind of incurious fools at some point in the future. Just people who were so sure of themselves that they didn't stop to like notice the things right around them. Science at its best, I think, leads people to humility and leads people to speak on what they know, but at its worst it can become a religion where people
live by the law of it.
And it becomes like, I think it becomes a paradigm by which people lose a sense of curiosity or wonder, trade your certainty for awe. Beautiful and strange things happen when you're willing to let go of all your assumptions. Because I think a lot of times people who refuse to even entertain notions that are like foreign or whatever, I think a lot of times that's fear that people hold on to, which in the short term I think maybe can help you to sleep well or to feel like superior to all those quacky people out there like us. But I think in the long term, it doesn't usually bode well for people in a mental or emotional health sense, because I think learning how to say like I don't know is a gift, is one of the best things that you can do for yourself. It doesn't mean that you give up and you don't want to learn, and it doesn't mean that there's no truth out there. It's just that I think the best thing to say when you really don't know is like, I don't know, All
right, folks, I hope you enjoyed that. And if you did, hit the subscribe button. As always, Milty don't quit, and you don't either. Love you guys.